Hey everybody, just want to share a quick little insight from my study journal conference. This morning while I was on my run, I was listening to Orson F. Whitney's October 1930 journal conference address. This is shortly before Elder Whitney passes away, because Elder Orson F. Whitney dies that following May, and so this is his second to last address in general conference. And he takes this opportunity to talk about how the gospel is the perfect law of liberty. And then he starts explaining the juxtaposition between our Republican form of government founded by a constitutional framework that God set up, and then our Theodemocracy form of government that our church has, and how they have many similarities but many differences. And he just goes through and he just masterfully explains issues and things regarding the organization of the church. Things like, for example, Joseph Smith had already received the priesthood, but he wasn't ordained the first elder in the church until the church was organized, because he said that it is something that is required at all levels of the church, is that the members of the church must willingly accept their leaders and be subject unto them. And he talks about the fact that the membership of the church does not bestow the authority. That is a key difference, is that the authority comes from God, but we as members of the church do have the right to accept or reject our leaders. And he then says, now what happens to those who reject their leaders? He goes, they shut the door on their own face. And he goes, and the Lord will rise up another people to accept the leaders. And he goes, but we are inheritance of their righteousness and accepting of the prophet Joseph Smith, and the priesthood keys continue to our day and age. And I think this is very important, because a lot of people think that they get a vote on a leader and that the church is a democracy, and that if they don't like a leader, they can protest, they can shout, they can activism within the church and jockey. But that's not how it works. The church is a theodemocracy, and Elder Orson F. Whitney basically says that in the theodemocracy of the church, the Lord speaks and the people say amen. And then when we refuse to say amen, what we are really doing is we are cutting ourselves off from the body of the church. And that our approval does not change the sanction of God. That Joseph Smith had seen God the Father and Jesus Christ. He'd received the priesthood from Peter, James, and John, but that he still put it through a vote of the people to whether or not they were willing to bind themselves to his teachings. And the same thing happens at our local level. When a bishop is called, we don't get a vote and say, hey, you know what, I don't like him, give me a different option. We get to choose that we are willingly going to submit to the will of the Father and accept this new person, or we are going to not. We're going to reject it. We're going to fight against that, and we're going to refuse. And I think this is something that's very important, because I see a lot of people who think that the church is a democracy, and it's a theodemocracy. And I really love how Orson F. Whitney talks about how the gospel is the constitution of eternity. The whole talk is link in bio or in the comments. It's really good. I highly recommend it.